Hey everybody, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Hopefully you're doing well. This is a brief edition of the From the Stone. How's everybody doing? We'll get started in just a second. And I want to say that for all of you out there that are new to Druid Circle, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Druid Naklastaklan, founder of the Druid Circle, founder of Druid Order of Blessed Stone and Wood, and founder of Druid University, all to come in the next several years. I want to talk to you guys today about, and from the well and from the stone is always very seasonal. So that's basically what you're going to get, is seasonal talks, things that have to do with the season and things like that from the stone. So I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about grapes, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about holy wells. And holy wells are basically something that we know that go back well into before the era of Christ. Wells were found throughout Europe, and as a result of that, were taken out of Europe, because after it was Christianized, it was such that the governments and the church just did not want the wells. And this is sad, because people used wells a long time ago to ensure that they would be able to come and communicate with the god or gods of their understanding. It's that simple. And so when they were viewed as evil, or devil worshiping, or whatever other construction that came to mind, because anything other than mainstream thought is always the opposite, they took them out, or tried to take them out, and yet they still remain. There were wells all throughout Europe and all throughout that have been there forever. And it's funny, because even when we use lexicology, we talk about how we still have remains of old and ancient thought in our own circle. We talk about that, we even use the term wishing well today. When we go to the wishing well, that is all left over from well before BC, hundreds and hundreds of years before that, where people gathered around wells and prayed. The interesting thing about wells is that right now, in the season of Alban Elfet, which means light of the water, Alban Elfet is a term meaning spring, or meaning fall equinox, western equinox, a time where there is an equal amount of dark and an equal amount of light. And it actually means light of the water, and that light of the water is something that we can all really appreciate, because water was the point where people looked and peered into when they were actually able to see to the other world, to the other realm, to that which they believed to be, in some cases, God. The god or gods of your understanding, or the pantheon of your understanding, or whatever you believe to be true, is something that we can all actually relish and value every day of our life. It isn't something that we just think about once and we're done with it. It's something about incorporating that universe, that source, that force, that course into us, so that we can be better versions of ourselves tomorrow than we are today. And when we think about these things, such as Alban Elfet and other things, we think about water being that gateway between us and the other world. So many people would just actually, even before they drank water from a stream, or even from a well, or whatever, they would take water, put it in their hands, and look into it, and look into the water before they drank it. And some would say that they saw themselves, and some would say that they saw the God of their understanding. and then drank it and made it holy water, holy well. Water has a constant theme throughout Mabon because it is Mabon. It is all about water. And even I would say some occultists would talk about this idea that when we are born, and we are born in water, in the womb of our mother, okay, we are in water, and that once we are then born, we need to go back to that water. We need to go back to finding out what the spiritual world is, what the world of the heart is, what the world of the soul is, and what the world of the spirit is, and what the world of the mind is. And I think that that's really the thought, that if our experience right now is seeing everything, seeing these buildings, seeing, you know, the river, seeing, you know, especially living in the city, it's not easy being a Druid, because I would prefer to be living in the trees and living in some cabin in some woods somewhere. But I would also say that it challenges you more to actually become in touch more with these trees, more with nature. We take so much for granted. We take for granted the grass. We take for granted the water. We take for granted the trees. We take for granted the air. We take for granted all of these wonderful natural things that the gods have given us. And I think that when we experience that and we really enjoy that and take time with that, then we are on our path to understanding Alban Alphet, Mabon, Western equinox, fall equinox, autumn equinox, even more. I think that one of the things we need to also consider is that there's always been stories. Sorry, I don't have my tripod today, so I'm like holding this thing up in front of me. We have these stories that go back well before the time of Christ of changing water into wine. That's not something new. That's not something that only Jesus would have done. There's other beliefs that have gone into this idea of not only consubstantiation but transubstantiation. The idea of, is the God or God of our understandings inside that wine, inside that drink, or is the God or God of our understanding become that drink? It's like when you take a piece of meat and you stick it in a microwave. Well, it still looks like the same meat, it still tastes like the same meat, but its chemical properties and everything has changed. It's not really the same meat anymore. We hear this in the story of Lu, the god Lu, who saved his people in Mabon, in Lunasa, by giving them the bread of life. And these are old stories. Not to make any light or anything less, because you know me, I don't like to tell you what God to believe in or what philosophy to believe in. That's not my job. My job is to help you guys understand a little bit better of your own relationship with your own deities. And understanding the well as a central part of Mabon, as a central part of Alban Alphet, is something that we need to really consider. These wells happen to be gateways to the other world. And I want to share a story with you. So, at one point I used to do hypnotherapy, and I used to go with Jeremiah. You guys all know Jeremiah. I used to go with Jeremiah. We used to go to hypnotherapy together, and I think that's where I really saw the light. That's where I really saw me. And there was one point in this hypnotherapy session where I would be running through the forest, and obviously this is astral projecting or intra projecting, whatever you want to call it. And I'm running through the forest, and I'm trying to catch Jesus, because Jesus is running in front of me, and I really want to grab him because I want to meet this person. So it took about 6 or 7 months, I would say, of hypnotherapy to actually get to this image in front of me to catch him. And so I caught him. And when I turned him around, or when he looked at me, it was so bright, it was so brilliant, and I had to ask him to dim the light. We see these stories, we see this in a number of tales. We even see this in A Christmas Carol, where Scrooge is in bed and sees the light and asks the light to lower itself, to dim itself, because it's just too bright for his understanding. And when the lights calmed, I saw myself. It was my face on Jesus. Sort of similar to the reflection that people would see when they peer into the water and peer into the well and look. They see themselves in a different light. They see themselves in a different way. They see their ethereal self. And I think that that is really the essence of understanding true Druidism. It's not saying that the gods don't exist. It's not saying that there is no God. It isn't saying that, it's saying that we understand the relationship with us and that connection to the ethereal universe, that ethereal realm. That truly is, in a nutshell, what this is about. The idea of changing water into wine was said because water was death, right? There was so much, bodies were buried in water. And, a lot of people think that, in the ancient ways, they would, burn everybody, and that, or they would, or sacrifice, every virgin or anything like that. I mean, they're stories. We don't know whether or not they're all true or not. It's not my argument today. My argument is actually a fight for what I believe to be the truth in the goodness of water, in seeing the other side, because we are approaching some, as people would say, Samhain, at least in Michael Myers' Halloween. But Samhain, as it's actually pronounced, or Samhain, is it's the MH of Gaelic, which is the W. Samhain is the time of the dead. Yet Mabon, which we are in right now, is the time of the time between that and the dead, and that's why we think about water being that conduit between us and our deeper self. So who are we seeing in the water? Are we seeing our future death, or are we seeing our past birth, or are we seeing something more? The idea of changing water into wine and grapes, because grapes this is the season of grapes right now. Grapes is the season. In fact, even in some parts of Spain, I would say that they even eat grapes as good luck. They eat just a number of grapes. I think it's 12 grapes, and they'll eat that as good luck. And we know one thing about grapes. Grapes has a serious amount of melatonin in it, and it also has very calming properties, right? If you're ever nervous, eat some grapes. I mean, it always works. That or a banana. So, as I think about this idea of water into wine being the sign of life and water being the sign of death, that's why we have the light of the water. It's saying that the light is disappearing, that the light is going. But back then, imagine the strength of that thought, knowing that you might not ever see the sun again, that sun might not ever come back again. Every year worrying and worrying and worrying, it must have taken hundreds of years to actually figure out, no, the sun's actually going to be coming back. No, the trees are actually going to be growing again. No, the grass is going to, be bright green and the flowers are going to bloom again. But as we enter into this darkness, let's realize it like our ancestors did, regardless of your own spiritual belief. Think about that. Think about the idea of moving forward with water and understanding that water changing into wine is something that is really just such a deep concept of taking ourselves and moving ourselves into a position where we are going to have life, because that's what wine is. Wine is that sort of, I guess that's why we call them spirits, because they bring out the inner spirit in us. It's life. So, I guess your homework would be is to just sort of go to water at some point, between now and the end of Mabon. Between now and October 31st or October 30th, the eve of, and grab some water, put it in your hands, and look at yourself. Look at your own reflection. And if you can't do it that way, then just look into water and see your own reflection. See how you look in that water, and try to understand what you're seeing. Try to perceive what you're seeing. Try to engage. Try to become one with that image in the water of you, because it is you. And with that, Girawan Betshegobra Haranit Taseifo. Make it a great day, everyone. Whatever time of day it is, make it great. Remember, check out our YouTube channel. If you guys want me to start going live on YouTube, I can't do it until I have 1,000 subscribers, because YouTube's being a boob. They made it 100 subscribers, and now it's 1,000 subscribers. You need to go live. I don't get it. It should be any subscriber. You have 1 subscriber, you should still be able to go live. And I'm not one to record. I like doing this stuff live. So thank you all for watching, and enjoy your day. See ya. Oops, hold on.